I remember I walked up into St James's and my hands, everything, my whole body just lit up. I've got goosebumps all over my skin.
I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 through the 21, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and honest, rider. I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Loaded Bag NUFC. We are back for the Loaded Transfer Show, a Sunday morning special. It won't be a Sunday morning without some tea and toast and a little bit of orange juice. So cheers to you all. Hope you're all well. But look, we've got a great show ahead, and we've got a fantastic guest to come in to talk all things Chow, maybe is it how you pronounce it? We'll find out. But also all things Newcastle United. But first of all, boys, how are you on this fine Sunday morning?
All good with me, Pete. It's All Ireland final day. Go on, Galway! Come on, Galway! So looking forward to that later on, 3:30. If anyone wants to watch that one, to Galway against Armagh in the All Ireland final for Gaelic football. So keep an eye on that one. But all good. Looking forward to having a chat with Alessandro about all things AC Milan, Chow, Thaw, whatever you're having yourself, and a few more topics. But Chris, how are you?
Good, mate. Yeah. I'm getting used to these Sunday morning shows now. Quite enjoy them. But yeah, all good, mate. All good. Looking forward to a nice day. It looks really, really nice outside, nice and sunny. So looking forward to getting in the garden a bit this afternoon. But yeah, all good with me. And Pete, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Apart from a little bit of a morning fight with hay fever. If anyone has hay fever, me and Dad talked about it, and Chris as well before we came live. Oh. Yeah, it's been one of those mornings. The pollen count is up. I'm sneezing, sniffling. It's not been a good start. However, this show will definitely make me feel a hell of a lot better. So cannot complain at this point. A massive thanks to everyone in the chat. Loads of people in the chat. We'll give a few shout outs to you Tunes, of course. There are Tunes in the chat, and welcome to Paul in the chat, nice and early. Bill, hope you're all well. Toon Talk as well, welcome in. Joe, great to have you with us, along with Hugh as well. Ali, great to have you in there. And we've already got a question in there. We're going to come to that in just a second, so we'll keep that starred. 9 goals, great to have you in 9 goals. And Nikolai as well, along with Roy. Oh, we don't always see Roy in the chat. It's great to see you.
The man from Norway.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great to have him in. Clearly, this is a great time, and to get some guests to come and join us again. Jack as well, great to have you in as well, and I'm sure there's many other Tunes in the chat. But boys, let's get down to it. We have a fantastic guest that we're going to speak to, and he's in the green room, so let's get him in, and let's welcome in Alessandro Schiavone.
Alessandro, welcome.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Hello.
No, pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. We were just talking off air before we went live. Obviously, you're on your holidays at the moment, so it's great for you to take a little bit of time out to come and join us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I really love coming to Newcastle to cover games, and I think the fans are special, So yeah, I mean, it's a pleasure to talk about Newcastle. I mean, you love to poach our players, but yeah, we will get to that. But yeah, it's a pleasure for me.
Oh, great! And it might not be the last time we'll poach the player. So we will get to that in a second. But as we mentioned, we have to start here because we had lots of Newcastle fans on social media. Sort of like asking the question when we mentioned that you were coming on, Alessandro, and it's around, of course, Sven Botman. It was a couple of years ago during that summer where there was lots of talk during that summer that it was either AC Milan or Newcastle United, and I think maybe, just maybe, you might have rubbed a few Newcastle fans up the wrong way with some comments that were made. There's a few out there, like look, and I have to say that since then, and we've got some of these comments as well. There's been lots of positive stuff that you've said about Newcastle United too. So we have to make that very, very balanced. But some of the things that you might have said about the situation, and I've got them. So I'll just quickly run through them, and I want to get your thoughts on it, Alessandro. So, like, some of the things here, this was going back a couple of years. Basically saying that, obviously it's going to be sort of Botman going to AC Milan. It's either AC Milan or bust, is what you mentioned it. Then it was kind of like, is there kind of an appeal to go to Newcastle United? The intent here, talking about leaving with a heavy heart to go to sort of AC Milan, or go to Newcastle instead of AC Milan, and then talking about sort of like there was a release clause there. So, like, from your perspective, what do you think maybe you were a little bit harsh with Newcastle United when you were making those comments, or do you stand by it? Like, where do you sit on that a couple of years on now?
Well, it happened 2 summers ago. Now, of course, not. I always say that I'm a Milan fan. Now I'm a journalist, so I see things with different eyes. But I always say that Newcastle is the best of the rest. London is the nicest city in England, but I think I really love coming to Newcastle. St. James's Park, for me, the fans are the best. I mean, I remember when they scored 5 goals against Tottenham in the opening 25 minutes 2 seasons ago. That place was unreal. Buzzing, unbelievable. You thought like the roof was coming off. So I have absolutely nothing against Newcastle. Even the press officers, the BBC journalists from Time said everything is amazing there. So absolutely, there was nothing against Newcastle, and there was also no bias towards AC Milan when I said that. I knew for a fact, because I was one of the social media admins at the time at AC Milan, and then I left because I got a better offer. But I knew that Sven Botman had met with Paolo Maldini, with Ricky Massara, the sporting directors, and he had his heart set on joining AC Milan. Sven Botman's father was a huge Van Basten fan, and obviously we all know the Dutch history at AC Milan: Rijkaard, Gullit, Seedorf. I'm only citing the ones that left their mark. There were many others like Kluivert, Davids, Bogarde, Reitziger, who didn't really live up to expectations. So Milan is pretty huge in Holland still today. And Botman's Botman's dream move was AC Milan at the time. Just that Milan and Newcastle shop in different markets. You cannot expect an Italian club these days to compete with the Premier League club, let alone the richest Premier League club like Newcastle. I mean, of course, there have been financial restrictions and all that. Newcastle can't, despite having bottomless pockets, Newcastle can't just go out and buy everyone they want for now. But it's still the richest Premier League club. So Milan can't compete with those sorts of clubs. And Milan couldn't match Newcastle's offer. I think it was 41 million euro, 36, 37. So obviously Botman waited. He wanted to join Milan. But for Milan, he was a priority, but not to that point that their whole summer budget, because let's not forget, because Milan were the reigning Serie A champions. They had Kalulu and Tomori. They are still there as their centre backs. They did pretty well. They had the best defense in Serie A. So, and they only had like a 45 million euro budget, and they wanted to concentrate that budget. They decided to concentrate that budget on Charles de Ketelaere instead of spending it on Sven Botman. Botman waited, and in the end, in the 11th hour, he accepted Newcastle. Maybe the term that I used at the time, he loathes, or he's going to Newcastle with a heavy heart. That was not meant that way, that he didn't want to go to Newcastle. But if he could have chosen, he would have gone to AC Milan. I don't want to take anything away from Newcastle. They play in the best league in the world. They qualified for the Champions League that season. And they have a rosy future ahead after a tough last season where so much happened. I'm sure Sven Botman now, if you ask him now, 2 years on, he's happy about the move. But at the time of signing, it was like, hi, I'm weighing up my options. I've waited for Milan for, what was it, a month. They are not so convinced. Newcastle want me more. Amanda Stavely is a huge fan of it because she always came out in public and stressed how much she loved Botman as a player. And all these played the key role in saying, okay, I've waited. Newcastle is a great option as well, but my first option was AC Milan. And I know it because when you work at the club, you hear stuff, you're close to people that know a lot about those kind of affairs and deals. And I know it, but at the time, I know that Sven Botman wanted to join Milan. And I'm still, if you ask him now, I wanted to speak to him after a game, and he was like, no, I'm not speaking about that. And, you know, he's a very private person. He doesn't really give interviews. Has he ever given an interview for Newcastle? I'm not sure, just maybe with the club. But if I have the opportunity one day, I will pick up on it, and hopefully he will tell the truth. But his dream was to join AC Milan.
Well, he didn't. And he signed for Newcastle United. And like you said, and we know it, boys, Daz, Chris, we know Sven Botman has been very, very happy at Newcastle United. And he does do interviews, not always. You're right, Alessandro, in general, but he has talked about, how happy he is at Newcastle United and obviously the direction that we're going in. Like you mentioned, last season wasn't the season we expected. Obviously, reasons for that. But I think with the videos that he's put out recently with his training, stepping up, coming back from his ACL injury, I do think that he'll be a massive, massive player to come back in. Anything on that, boys, you wanted to ask Alessandro before we kind of like move on from that section with regards to the Botman situation or anything else in related to that?
Not for me, really. Just looking forward to having the Rolls Royce back. And as you said, Pete, he's stepped up his recovery, so it'll be sooner rather than later. Because we were thinking 2025, but it looks like it'll be way sooner than that. So he's ours now, and we're going to keep him. We're happy to have him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. As I said, he has positional sense, strength, power, and for someone that tall, he's very agile. And I think he will be like a new signing. I mean, you've not really had him like for long. He had an ACL injury now and then a knee injury before, so he's been blighted by injuries. And yeah, I mean, he will be massive, just like Tonali. Basically, your two most expensive players with Bruno have not really been there in the last Tonali last season and Botman in the last 2 seasons. But yeah, Newcastle will be a force to be reckoned with if these guys are back, and I'm sure they will be chomping at the bit to show everybody that Newcastle were right to invest that much money on them. Yeah.
And I see what you mean about the Dutch AC Milan connection, because growing up I loved AC Milan, the whole Van Basten, absolutely loved Van Basten. Huller's kind of ruined things for me a bit as he moved into his managerial career, and Rijkaard, of course. But
he benched Shearer, that didn't go down well on time.
Yeah, didn't go great, right?
No.
I think Ruud Gullit ruined everything in terms of that Dutch connection. That's for sure. But look, it is what it is. But like we were always going to ask that question because we did track it. Obviously, following you on social media during that time, we did track the comments. There was a number of comments. Lots of Italian journalists were kind of saying lots of different things about that Sven Botman situation. So we just wanted to address that first and foremost. But
and obviously, when there's one thing I wanted to add. Obviously, when Botman joined Newcastle, he said that Newcastle was his first choice. He was like enticed by the project. Yeah, he has to say that. He cannot say like, I only came to Newcastle because Milan decided to pull out of the deal or not offer Lille what they wanted. Obviously, he had to say that. But I'm sure he's happy because Newcastle is the future. Haven't won much in the last years, but I'm sure once Guardiola gets out of the way at City, I think it's going to be Newcastle's time. And I'm pretty sure what I'm saying, because they have everything: the stadium, the fans, and above all, the money, the league, and a nice city as well. It's not London, but it's such a nice city where players feel home, comfortable, and yeah, I mean, the future is Newcastle. Maybe not this season, but I think from next season on, if Guardiola, De Bruyne are leaving and they can spend, at the moment, they have their hands tight, when it comes to spending money. But I think Botman and Tonali will win a lot at Newcastle, for sure.
Well, yeah, you've touched on an interesting point because obviously there is that factor that everyone tends to. It has to be said, particularly everyone in the south, with regards to the media in London, tends to have this negative opinion that nobody wants to come to Newcastle. Well, for three people that have been traveling there for the best part of 30 years, because we are not fortunate enough to live in the city, but I can tell you something, it is the best city for me in this country. There's no doubt about it. It's a beautiful city, and that's for someone that lives in the Midlands. So I'm not, don't live in the south, but we've all traveled around England. Newcastle is amazing, and what I wanted to put on that just before we move on is actually what you tend to find is that the amount of players, particularly those that have come from the south to the north and gone, wow, this place is amazing, because they hear all these negative thoughts, they actually go and experience it themselves, and they live in the city and they kind of live and breathe it every day. They realize how amazing the city is. Yes, it's not as big as London or any place like that, of course, but actually it's a very, very special place. And
all the bridges, the river, and it's like the old part of the city center. When you turn right from the central station, it's like it's really nice. I spoke to Philippe Albert, the Newcastle legend, because I see him many times, and he said Newcastle really has it all. I mean, it's not London, but he played for Fulham 3 months, Philippe Albert, and he said, like, Newcastle, you could get smashed, and if you get smashed in London, you are in the tabloid, in the first pages of the tabloid. Newcastle, you pretty much go, you're a bit off the radars. You can pretty much move around, and it's like, it's nice. Even Paqueta, when he visited Bruno Guimaraes, he said, like, nice city, and I really mean it. I think Manchester, Liverpool, whatever, but I think Newcastle is like different class.
Definitely. And there might not be tabloids there ready to get at you, but there's always a Newcastle fan watching. This is fan base. We watch everything Newcastle United, so we don't miss a trick. But I just wanted to point out there, we did mention there were some positives that you'd said over the past year or so. A few comments on here. Obviously, this was when AC Milan knocked out Newcastle in the Champions League. I know you were almost hoping that AC Milan and Newcastle went through, and you were very, very respectful in those comments as well. And were you at this game? Were you at the game? Was this a West Ham game?
Which one? The Harvey Barnes tweet?
Yeah, I think this was after.
Yes. That was Tonali's last game before his ban. Oh. Yes, I was there. I can't remember the result. Was it a draw?
No, I thought this was the West Ham game later on in the season.
Yeah, that was in October. That was before Tonali got suspended. I think it was a draw between. I think I was there because I met Tonali in the mix zone, so I must have been there. If I tweet stuff like match reports, normally I'm at the game. Yes, so I must have been there.
No, that's fine. But again, made some positive comments, and we've said this on Loading Mag NUFC about Fabian Schär. If he was a little bit younger, he'd definitely be worth a
good player. And a nice person as well. Very nice guy, Fabian Schär. Very honest, very down to earth. I like him. I've met him many times. I've spoken to him. Very nice guy.
Definitely. And this was late on in May. I think this was after Man United won the FA Cup.
Yes. Yeah.
So look, we like to show that balance there. Obviously, there's things that were said a couple of years ago, but has been respectful towards Newcastle United and continue to be. There are others that I've just not put on there, but I could have put a lot more positive things on there. However, as you mentioned right at the beginning, right at the top of the show, Newcastle United tend to be poaching AC Milan players or targets, and there's another player that we've talked about a number of times. I want to get your thoughts on this, and it's first of all, How do you pronounce his name? Is it Malick Thiaw? Is it Malick Thor? Like, we've had this conversation in our chat has gone mad at times, telling us what it is and what it isn't. How would you pronounce his name first and foremost?
Well, we should know that his father is from Senegal and his mother is from Finland, and he was born and raised in Germany. So there's no real pronunciation. I mean, the Germans might pronounce it like this, but I heard Thiaw once saying, I think it's in Senegalese, it should be the Senegalese pronunciation. The original is Malick Thiaw. And Thiaw in Italy means also goodbye, you know. So it was pretty easy for Italians to master that pronunciation of his name.
Hopefully you were saying it soon enough, Alessandro.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be against. I'm sure you've seen some YouTube highlights, and obviously it's filtered. I mean, you can ask me any questions. I will be happy to respond, but I would probably not rip my hair out if he's going to leave AC Milan. He's a very good player, but last season was tough, very tough. He's not been the same player as 2 seasons ago.
And obviously, we have had links with him. I'll just run through it because there's a few people that have reported it, including yourself, really. You know, from a British perspective, one of the journalists, Luke Edwards, had mentioned when asked the question about Malick Thiaw that we have watched him for a while, so he is on the list, but there's been no bids or talks at this point. Milan's own reported from Gazzetta dello Sport that, you know, Milan want 40 million euros. There's a potential for that to be negotiated. Newcastle are looking for about 30 million euros, and that's kind of the discussion that's going on at the moment. And then yourself yesterday tweeted out, obviously, the relationship between Sandro Tonali and Malick Thiaw. Do you want to just kind of expand on that? Where do you see this deal potentially at this moment in time, from what you know?
But some conditions have to be met first. Milan have to get Salzburg's Serbian centre back, Pavlovic. Once they get that deal over the line, I think Thiaw will be for choice. I mean, Tomori and Pavlovic would be the undisputed starters, with Kalulu the first backup. So yeah, Milan, I mean, Newcastle have not made an official offer yet. There's been some stuff going on through intermediaries. Yes, we are interested. Eddie Howe likes him, but then again, there's not been a real offer on the table yet. But from what I heard, also from colleagues, Newcastle wants to get it done for 30 million. 30 million would be a pretty good offer considering the last season he had and how much Milan paid him. Milan paid him 7 million euros, which is like roughly 5 million pounds. So it's a huge profit from what they paid him 3 seasons ago from Schalke when he was in the second Bundesliga. Where do I see that going? I think Eddie Howe has to stay first. That's that's paramount. Because if he is to take over the English national team, I can't see it, materializing. But if Howe stays and Milan get Pavlovic and Newcastle really want him, I think it can be done in 3 days, like Tonali last year. Tonali was like something that happened out of the blue. No one saw it coming, and then all of a sudden, Tonali, Newcastle, and I think if Newcastle really want him, they will get him, because every player, let's be honest, dreams of playing in the Premier League. And I think he would take to the Premier League like a duck to water. He has everything to play in the Premier League. Maybe Serie A, too many tactical instructions. Sometimes he's not free. He has to think too much. But the Premier League is like, it's like box to box, physical intensity, rhythm, and he has all that. And I think if Newcastle really want him, they will get him.
Just tell us a little bit. You've kind of touched on it a bit about Malick Thiaw. Just tell us a little bit from what you've watched. And like you said, you've probably got a bigger remit to kind of go off, because you've probably watched them a lot more than many Newcastle United fans have. What are his strengths? What are his weaknesses? What was his relationship with Sandro Tonali? You touched on it in the tweet that you put out yesterday. Just give us a little bit of a background from what you know, Alessandro.
Yeah, that relationship with Tonali is like a bit an unlikely bromance. Like, these two guys being good friends off the pitch. It's like Ribéry and Alaba at Bayern Munich a few years ago. Really, they are best friends? They are not, like Ribéry, Alaba, Thiaw, Tonali. What makes them being friends? Because they don't really speak the same language. Tonali's English at the time wasn't great. So yeah, they were very good friends off the pitch, and they've been in touch recently. Thiaw asked Tonali about life in Newcastle, fans, the training grounds, Eddie Howe, the team, the project. Talking about his strengths, there's been two versions of Thiaw. The first one, when he joined Milan from Schalke, he didn't play at all or not much in the first 4 months. Milan really struggled. That was the season when after winning the Scudetto. And then Pioli, the manager, he ditched the 4-man defense to kind of play with the 3-man back line. And then he brought in Thiaw, and he was absolutely bulletproof. He was the reason why Milan arrested that slide at the time. But as I said, in a 3-man defense, he didn't put the foot wrong. Aerial prowess, strength. He was a great anticipation skills. His reading of the game is exceptional. So before a ball comes, he often knows where to go to intercept the ball. So he has the attributes to be a Premier League success. Also because he's very intense. He's very tough as well. I mean, not that he's like a dirty tackler, so no, but he's not scared of putting the boot in. And I think he would be very complementary with either Scher and Botman. Now, if you ask me, his weaknesses, his concentration levels. I mean, he's not always switched on. The problem is he can go from a moment of, where he kind of produce an outstanding skill on the pitch, and a moment later he's not switched on and Milan concede. So very often he goes sleeping on his man, and also he gets turned around too quickly. So basically, when the ball comes and he defends against a striker with his back to goal, like Moise Kean or Lautaro Martinez, Lukaku, players who can do the damage with a change of pace and direction, sometimes he's found wanting. So either he kind of anticipates where the ball is going, because if the ball gets to the striker's feet, he's not always the quickest to react. So what I would say, what he lacks in agility, he makes up for in intensity, anticipation, tough tackles. But at the moment, we don't know where he's going. Is he going to be the new Jerome Boateng? Because he's been compared to Jerome Boateng, inevitably being German, mixed race and all that, tall, strong. Or is he going to be like a Jonathan Tah, who had a great season at Leverkusen, who played for Germany in the Euros, but his career was not going anywhere before that. He was like stagnating. So at the moment, is he going to be the new Jerome Boateng? He's only 22. Or is he going to be the new? Is he going to be like a Jonathan Tah, a very good defender, but nothing exceptional? I think Newcastle should take a punt on him, because the Premier League is physical. He's physical. It's all based on strength. Reading of the game. The reason Milan are happy to sell him is because Fonseca, the new manager, he wants to play with a high back line, defend high up the pitch. And Thiaw, he really excelled when defending in a deep block, in a 3-man defense. So now in a 4-man defense, playing high up the pitch with space in his back, because as I said, he struggles with pace, with changes of pace and direction, and that's not really his strength. So I don't know how Newcastle want to play, if he has Botman when he's coming back, or Scher or Lascelles or Kelly covering up for him. But as I said, defending high up the pitch with him is a huge risk against quick strikers. But as I said, this is a bit clumsy, lumbering, but he has those anticipation skills that if he hadn't those anticipation skills, he wouldn't have come to AC Milan, because he knows very often where the ball is going before the ball is going there. So he gets there first. But if the striker gets there first and then it gets turned around and turned inside out, he's not the full package yet. But as I said, he's young, has a lot of room for improvement, and Eddie Howe is the right manager probably to get the best out of him, and the Premier League as well, because it's less tactical and more physical, and that's where his strengths lie.
Alessandro,
I think
Oh, sorry, go on, Daz.
Sorry, Chris. I think you should be in those negotiations for Thiaw, and just to bring down that price a little bit. And then it sounds like from what your description there that we need to keep playing with Thiaw and build Thiaw up and till he's ready. But it's no interesting take, and you're not going to get that from YouTube clips that most of us would have been looking at. But you've seen them in depth. Interesting. You have your opinion. Sorry, Chris.
No. I was just going to ask Alessandro. Funnily enough, similar to what you said, Daz. Obviously, Newcastle. It's reported Newcastle want to pay around 30 million euros, and AC Milan are looking for 40 million euros. In your opinion, if this deal goes through, where do you see the price ending up? Do you think AC Milan will agree to the 30, or do you think we'll meet in the middle, or do you think Newcastle will have to pay 40 to get him out of AC Milan?
I think the relationship between Milan and Newcastle is pretty good after the Tonali deal, and I think Milan had a lot of sympathy for what happened after Tonali. So basically, many Newcastle fans said, "Wow, really? They sold him for 70 million euros, something like that." And he gets banned 3 months later. So I don't think Milan would play hardball and ask for those 40 millions like Benfica normally do, or like other clubs do. Either you pay that my way or the highway. Milan are not like that. I think they can meet each other halfway, 34, 35 plus add-ons and a chunk from the future resale. But I think if you ask me, 40 million for him now, it's not worth the money. But 40 million for him last year when he helped Milan get to the Champions League semi-final, because, as I said, he had Harry Kane in his pocket in the Champions League against Tottenham. There was absolutely nothing Harry Kane would have been able to do that night to cause any damage. He was everywhere. He had him in his pocket. And after those 2 games, he would have been worth even more. I think where Eddie Howe first saw him against Tottenham in the last 16 of the 2022-2023 Champions League. But his stock has plummeted since. And I think 30 million for Milan would be very good money to get. But I also want to pick up on something very important. It's true that Thiaw has struggled last season. I mean, in the season that ended 2 months ago. It's true. He has not been the same. He has been a shadow of the player he was, a far cry, whatever you want. Yes. But overall, most key players struggled last season. Menyo, the goalkeeper, wasn't the same. Theo Hernandez was nowhere near as good as he was in the first 3 seasons at the club. Leao alternated great games with very poor games. Benacer, when he came back, he was, off his game more often than not. So it was not just Thiaw. Thiaw was just a reflection of Milan. In a nutshell, if you saw how Thiaw declined, it was the same as Milan. Milan were nowhere near as good last season. Yes, they ended up second. Yes, they beat Newcastle in the Champions League, whatever you want. But it was a very, very disappointing season. 69 goals conceded. Again, that's not just down to Thiaw. Thiaw played a big part into how Milan unraveled. But as I said, everybody, there was not one player where you could say he was better than last season. Not one player. Tomori was worse. Calabria was worse. Kalulu was never there. Just the new signings were very good. Reinders, Loftus-Cheek. But from the ones that were there, Thiaw was just like all the others. And I think he needs a fresh start. I mean, he needs a fresh. And Newcastle would be fantastic, really, for him.
Alessandro, just I'm not going to compare in the price ranges, but I'm just going to, but knowing what you know now about Thiaw, and let's say AC Milan needed a centre back, would you spend 15-20 million on him in Milan money?
I mean, after what he showed last season, even 15 million would be too much, to be honest with you. But as again, the question is, who is the real Thiaw? Is it the one we saw in the second part of the 22-23 season, or is it the one we saw last season? Yes, he had physical problems. Let's not forget he had a long injury in November. He was sidelined for 2-3 months. But even before the injury, he was already, not the same player he was the season before. I don't know why that was. Is it because strikers sussed him out? Probably. Is it because he let success go to his head. I don't know, but he was not the same player. And then he paid the price for Milan's overall struggles. I think the right price for him, if we take the 2 seasons into account, would be 22 million, because you don't know what way his career is going to go. Is he going to be the next big thing, the new Hummels, the new Jerome Boateng, the new, a great German centre-back like, Guido Buchwald back in the day? Or is he going to be like a one-season wonder? Because that's what he's been for now, a one-season wonder. So I think 30 million, Milan would do the deal there. But again, he has the potential to become a very big defender. So if you guys get him for 30 million, and then all of a sudden he flourishes into a top centre back because he has the credential and the potential to it, then Milan will be left ruining it. But I think Milan, you never know how it's going. But I don't think he's worth as much as Botman was 2 summers ago. If you pay 40 million for him, that means he's as good as Botman was 2 years ago, and I don't think he is. He has the potential, but you don't know yet.
And that's the thing. We have to remember that from what we've been covering on Loaded Mag NUFC with Newcastle transfers, that we've been watching Malick Thiaw since that last season, like before when you guys won the Scudetto and he was playing at that level. So I think clearly Newcastle United feel that he can get back to that level, and that's the thing. Every player has an up and down season. You've got Newcastle United players that were sensational when we finished 4th, but have had a lesser season, and it happens. And I think you've been very fair with your reflections, the positives and the things of areas to improve. We have to remember he's 22 years old. Like he's still very young, and he's got room to grow and develop. And like you said, I think I've not got a massive sample size, nowhere near yours, Alessandro, of watching him. But how you described him with his assets, like you said, he's very, very aggressive. Like he likes to anticipate, which is what you said. Like he's very quick in his recoveries. Like all those things that you described. For me, and I don't know what you feel, Daz and Chris, like that's, I think you've said it, Alessandro, it's perfect for the Premier League. Perfect for the Premier League and perfect for Eddie Howe.
Yeah, definitely.
I do believe, someone asked me, who does he kind of remind you of? And they're maybe not the exact same player, but he does have some similarities to Sven Botman, which maybe is why they're looking to potentially bring him in. They're not the exact same player, but the way in which they play, sometimes there is that similar kind of like motion in which the way in which they move, the way in which they press, the way in which they tackle, very, very similar. And maybe they're trying to build that as that potential partnership for the future.
It would be complementary for sure. Yes.
Definitely. I think Daz, you made a good point, is that, bringing him in, we've still got Fabian Schär, who's fantastic this last season at right centre back. Could it be that we bring him in and with Botman being out, that we kind of bring him in and it's almost kind of like this is his kind of settling in season,
like a bit like a Lewis Hall, but not as much.
He'll play more football than Lewis Hall, purely because of our centre back situation. But it's almost like there's not that necessary pressure to him starting week in, week out.
Yeah.
But then after that, he's had a year behind him. He's ready to go. Like it could well be that situation. I don't know. What do you think, boys?
I think it does sound crazy paying that amount for a player and not actually guaranteeing a start. But we have Schär there, and we've always talked about Schär's successor. So yet to share the load with Schär, and who knows, someone could get injured on the tour in Japan. You never know. So we do need that backup. And also when we talk about the money, like Tosin was going to be our free signing. Now we'd have to pay the other fees involved in getting him. So this is something that we hadn't initially budgeted for. So can you see them spending 40 million then on a right centre back who isn't necessarily first choice? It doesn't seem right then at all.
definitely. It's an interesting one. What are you thinking, Chris? Now you've heard Alessandro's points on Malick Thiaw.
Yeah, I think he's kind of built the profile very, very well. I mean, I'm still keen on the player. Like from bits I've seen of him, I think he would complement Botman well. And I think we were talking about that towards the end of the discussion there. And I think he's a player that Eddie Howe can bring in and would certainly work with him and coach him into becoming and hopefully having the potential that it sounds like he's got. I do see what Alessandro is saying in terms of he's not the finished product, and that's probably why he's available for the price that he is, in terms of he's not like a 40, 50, 60, 70 million pound centre back. I mean, he's 22, he's not like 18, 19, so the potential's still there. And I think if he was to come into Newcastle and Eddie Howe worked with him, who knows, and it either goes that way or he goes that way. But either way, I think he comes with a good pedigree, is what I'd say. And I think it's personally worth the risk. And Alessandro made a great point, about his speed and his technical ability. And it sounds like he would be built for the Premier League, which is a completely different league to Serie A. And maybe that's why Eddie Howe's hoping, that he can get hold of someone like that, because I think in the Premier League, the first and foremost biggest attribute is you need that physicality, you need that dynamism.
Yeah.
And from what we've seen of Thiaw, he's got it.
And one of the things is, I mentioned before, his concentration levels are not always great, but that's also because in Serie A you have more time on the ball. It's much slower pace, so it's easier to get distracted. I don't know. But in England, you cannot really take your eyes off the ball because it's like boom, boom. You have to be there all the time. I think maybe, but just maybe, he will be better suited to being in the Premier League. And also, he's in terms of playing out. He's not like Beckenbauer or he doesn't have Nesta's grace or Beckenbauer's vision. But I think he's technically, for a centre back, he's technically accomplished. He's like a fine pass of the ball. He can pick a pass. I think he can break the lines with the pass. He's done it many times, but there are some things he has to improve. Yes, definitely. Even in front of goal, for someone that big, he should be more of a menace in the box, at the other end. I think by he's 22, he's not even 23. He's turning 23, I think, next month. So, yeah, but again, it depends on what Eddie Howe is going to ask him. He's never going to be the player who steps up like Stones and becomes an extra man in midfield. No way. He doesn't have that in him, to build play. But if he only needs to defend, he will do the job. But again, depends on how Newcastle are going to play. A 4-man defense, 3-man defense, absolutely bulletproof. With the lower block, amazing. High defense, I don't know. Yes, he will get there for sure. But for now, as I said, when Milan played with the high defense, sometimes he was all over the place against quick players. And, but I think 1v1 against the likes of Holland, I think. Also, we should not forget that in training at Milan, he played against Giroud, so slower players. Now, if he has to play against Isak, day in, day out, that will improve him as well, So, let's see how he goes. I think he would be a good signing for Newcastle. Newcastle would be a good move for him, and I think it would also be for Milan a good sale. I mean, first of all, because he's not going to be first choice if Pavlovic joins, and secondly, because they need the money to sign the players that they want to sign, and if they have to cash in on a player, it should be Thiaw. It should not be Theo. It should not be Menyo. It should not be Leao. He's the one who, if he goes, I don't want to say no damage done, but it's easier to sacrifice him than others, I would say. Tonali last year was just that tipped Milan over the edge. Mentally, losing Tonali, someone who loved Milan so much, anyone but him, really. But Thiaw, no one is going to kick up a fuss about it. Not many, I would.
Alessandro, how long have we got with you? Because I know we said sort of like 30, 40 minutes. How long?
I still have like half an hour if you want. That's fine.
Okay, so that's great.
If you have the patience to have me on the show, that is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
The reason why is because I wanted to kind of get into that. There are questions for you in the chat. There's some about Thiaw. There's some about some other Milan players that we've been linked with as well. So we definitely want to come to those questions. Thank everyone in the chat for putting those questions in. We'll get through them. But I wanted to ask you about Sandro Tonali. Obviously, for us, we're absolutely buzzing because he has been back in action in a behind closed door friendly game this week. We don't know details about that because it wasn't allowed to be shared. But obviously, he's going to be back for the Tottenham Hotspur game. I think that's the third game in this season coming. I don't really want to cover the ban and everything because we've covered that and it's already been through. But just, what are you expecting from Sandro Tonali sort of this season? He's had almost a year to kind of settle into the region, the area, the country. He's speaking better English now. In the videos Newcastle have been putting out, and you can hear him having those conversations. His English sounds really strong. We've said we think there's a big season behind Sandro Tonali. Now he's got that weight off their shoulders. What, from someone that knows and has followed him, and of course you've spoken to him, what are you expecting from Sandro Tonali at Newcastle United this season?
Well, let's not forget that last year was a tough year for him. Tough, not just because of the ban. Yes, the ban was the final blow, having to miss the whole season and the Euros. But already leaving Milan was really tough on him. I'm not going to say he was not happy to. Again, he is probably more than happy to have made that decision now, even if that decision was not in his hands at the time. Apparently, he cried when he left. Obviously, it was his boyhood club. It's as if, I don't know, a young Dan Burn, Jody would leave as a 23-year-old to go to AC Milan. It's, in the end, maybe it would have proven the right thing to do, but you know where I'm going here. It's as if Gerrard had joined Chelsea. You cry before you can smile. I think Tonali was in a bad place after leaving Milan. For an Italian, it's not easy to live in England. I'm speaking from experience. In the north, it's colder and, beautiful city and everything, but it's the first months, it takes some time to settling in. So last year was a tough year, and I think he will fuel that anger, because he must have been angry seeing his teammates playing in the Champions League against Paris, against Milan at home. He was there for the first game, I remember, and against Dortmund, all games that he trained all his life to play in, the Euros, seeing what Italy had in that midfield. If he was there, I'm not going to say Italy would have won the Euros, but all this has affected him, not being able to help. Also feelings of guilt, because Newcastle paid 65, 70 million euro for you, and you only played a handful of games, 10, 15 games. So guilt, anger, remorse, all this is now behind him. He can see the light at the end of the tunnel again. It was a tough time. Let's not forget, they are millionaires, they are rich, they are famous, they are adulated. But at the end of the day, they are people like us. And taking football away from Tonali was left him naked. I mean, he's Tonali because of football. Football gave him everything. Otherwise, he would have been Sandro from Brescia, a normal person like everyone else. But he, and all this, he's like raging. I'm sure if everything goes how it should, he will be the icing on the cake, the catalyst for Newcastle's rebirth, because last season was a blip, too many problems, Botman injuries, Tonali injuries, some decisions that when I was in Paris for that game, I don't know where that was a penalty for PSG. I still don't know.
Neither do we.
I remember looking at Simon Bird, the journalist, he was sitting next to me.
Yeah,
and
we had him on the show.
We were all shocked, perplexed. I think that was robbery for me. And I think Newcastle will have like a new player, like Botman, when he's coming back. And can you imagine Tonali walking in onto that pitch for the first time? Especially you are after overcoming an obstacle like that, a mental barrier like that, 10 months without football, you are like flying again. You had your wings clipped, but you are like a free man again. And I'm sure he will be even better than he would have been last season now, thanks to the ban. He's mentally strong. I mean, every player is mentally strong, because you don't get to that level, Premier League, Serie A, national team, if you are weak. Because let's not forget, these players had to go through a lot of challenges from early on. Every year when they grew up, they didn't know, am I going to stay at the club? Is the club going to release me? So they build up some resilience that helps them cope now against critics, against haters, against booze in stadium. They have like a thick skin, most players. Criticism goes in one year and goes out the other. So, but still, a ban is something he would not have expected in his life. I mean, he probably always lived with a bad conscience, knowing you bet on football, and he's not the only one. So obviously the risk was there, but the risk of being caught, and I think it's gonna be unbelievable with Guimaraes if he stays. I don't think City are gonna sign him, and Joel Linton. These three are, I think, as good as they come in the Premier League, and he will be absolutely in defensive transition, in attacking transition, scoring goals, entries into the box, shots from distance. He's gonna be, I think it's gonna be.
We agree with Alessandro. We think he's gonna be as well. I can't looking forward to him coming back. But you've been really, really honest on your assessment of Thiaw. It would be rude not to ask a few questions about the transfer, because Ali asked the question. I want to know how much Milan knew on Tonali before the start. I suppose the betting scandal, was it something? And Dave follows up with another one. Why was Tonali sold to us? It's a question that we've had in our mind as well. But what's your take on it? Was something known in the background?
There are lots of conspiracy theories, but fans came out at the time. Why did we keep Theo Hernandez, who is a Frenchman, who was not born a Milan fan, who other clubs offered even more, 90, 100 million. So why did we say no for Theo? Why did we say no for Leao? And why didn't we think twice about keeping Tonali? So as soon as Newcastle came, he was out the door. So they're like conspiracy theories, but Milan knew something. I can't say anything. Milan knew something. Milan didn't know something. There are some things you hear, but are they true? Are they not true? So nothing is confirmed. Sometimes it's just BS. It's not things that you can believe. It's strange that Milan kept Theo, Milan kept Maignan, and as soon as they got an offer for Tonali, albeit a huge offer, they let him go. Born Milan fan. I don't want to say Milan knew something. There are things that you hear, but you always need to do your research to back. Anyone can say anything nowadays with social media. I don't think Milan. I mean, the sporting directors knew anything. Maybe there were insiders in the club that heard, because you hear this guy cheated on his wife with that women. Things that don't come out in the newspaper, when you work for a club. So obviously there was stuff about this player, about this player, about this player. But is it true? Again, a lot of money for a player, and Milan don't compete. Sorry, Milan don't shop in the same market as Newcastle. So Milan couldn't have given Tonali the salary Newcastle gave him. So in the end, it was a heartbreaking move for most Milan fans. Now I'm not the kid anymore, but if I was 15, like when Shevchenko left Milan in 2006, or Kaká in 2009, I was devastated. I didn't eat for like a week. Now at my age, journalists, you see things through a different lens. And you are like, okay, maybe it was the right thing to do. But for most Milan fans, I know a lot of fans who stopped watching Milan because they sold what they perceived, what they saw as a poster boy, as a symbol, as a flag bearer, as someone who represent. It's like the embodiment of the Milan fans in the stands on the pitch. So it's tough. But again, I don't want to say bullet dodged for AC Milan, because that would be disrespectful to Newcastle. I think I was devastated for Tonali when it happened, and for Newcastle, because as I said, such a friendly, lovely club. And I wouldn't say the same thing about Liverpool, So I'm not saying this now to make myself friends on hindsight. No, I really mean it. I even have a Newcastle shirt that I bought a few years ago, and it's a nice club, and I hope they get what they deserve in the next 4 years before he may eventually rejoin AC Milan.
Yeah, that was something that I did see you put out there, and I've not put it on for that reason. But you did do a piece saying in 2028 he's looking to come back, and I'm not going to get into that today.
It's too long. like 1 month in football is already a long time. 4 years, but I'm sure that I know for a fact that Tonali wants to end his career at AC Milan. Now, if it happens in 2028 or in 2031, he will play for Milan again before he calls it a day. Yeah. But Newcastle are gonna get him, are gonna get his best years out of him. Gonna get him in his prime, and that's what matters. I mean, apart from Gianfranco Zola, I don't think any Italian has ever retired at an English club. So no, even Zola didn't. He went to Cagliari actually. So
yeah, he did.
Normal. It's like Tomori and Loftus-Cheek are not gonna end their careers at AC Milan. I think they're gonna return to England at some stage and play for Palace or West Ham or Forest or Newcastle. They're not going to end their careers at AC Milan, which is normal. It's rare that an Englishman ends his career in Italy or a Spaniard ends his career in the Premier League. Even Spanish players, most of them at some point they return to Spain. Torres, others that I may now forget. Piqué played for Man United and went to Barcelona. Pepe Reina, Liverpool, also went to Villarreal. And it's rare that players from these three top leagues don't end their career in their home country.
No, that's fair.
He owes us though. He owes us now, so you never know.
Yeah, definitely. He has to repay Newcastle's fate because you stuck with him through thick and thin. You never hung him out to dry. Other clubs would have been like, man. But even Tonali, I think, endeared himself to the fans by taking a pay cut. He trained with the team, and you know how tough that must have been for him to train day in, day out with players that he knew these guys are going to play at Old Trafford, at St. James's Park, at Anfield at the weekend, and I'm going to be sitting in front of the television. It must have been tough knowing that you are there, but you cannot tell, So, but that was appreciated as well by Newcastle, his dedication. He played as if he was playing at the weekend, I heard, He played as if he was, obviously, when they played five-a-side games, I think he didn't always participate, but he gave everything. He left, he wore his heart on his sleeves. He kind of rolled up his sleeves, and he played as if it was a Champions League final in every training session, and that went down really well with the club. And again, he will be a huge asset for Newcastle in the next 3-4 years, and maybe beyond.
Fingers crossed. Dad, let's get to some questions that people have put in. Some might have been answered, some may not have been, but we'll throw them at you.
Yeah, something different for a few minutes, because basically, I'll find the question in a second, but I thought it was interesting. I'll go for Ali's one, but it came from a few different people. It was basically they were kind of saying, who would you recommend for Newcastle, Alessandro, and particularly in right winger? Is anyone that would catch your eye that you could
from Serie A?
Newcastle, Serie A. Yeah.
But actually, I read about Newcastle's interest in Nicola Gonzalez, the two-time Copa America winger from Argentina. I think he's the type of player. First of all, I think Almiron, he did really well after the Saudi takeover. Remember, there was a time when he was a liability before, I think under Steve Bruce, right? He was not really performing well. Yeah. And then Newcastle were bought up by PIFs, and all of a sudden, I think he was scared of losing his players. And then we saw the Miguel Almiron that we saw probably in his first season on Tyneside. I think he would be an upgrade. However good Almiron was after the Saudi takeover, I think Nicola Gonzalez is an upgrade. Why do I say that? Because he has style and substance. Some wingers nowadays, they have like style, like show ponies, drop of shoulder, cutting inside. But he likes to cut onto his left foot, from the right, before curling one home. And his clean striking technique. And he's like an atypical winger. Because why do I say that he's an atypical winger? Because normally wingers are famous for their dribblings, for their curling banana balls into the top corner, for beating their man. But what really strikes me about Nicola Gonzalez, for a winger, he plays on the right side. He's like Miguel Almiron's place. When the cross comes in from the other side, from the left side, he actually attacks the post. You don't see that from wingers, that they actually make an entry into the box and attack the post, and he scored many goals with his head like that, He's always like lurking in behind the defenders, and then when the cross comes in, he's like a winger wearing the number 10 shirt, but with traits of a number 9. And yeah, he's a killer in front of goal. Again, with and without the ball. With the ball, he's like a dazzling player, he leaves players trailing with his changes of pace, with his drops of shoulders, and with his, I think, brilliant technique, like an Argentinian technique, like Lavezzi, Di Maria, these guys. He has like a sublime technique, very refined technically. But again, he's like a number 9. He has some number 9 characteristics in him, like goals with his head, the way he attacks the second post. And yeah, the only question again, why have no big clubs tried to sign him in the past? Why has he been at Fiorentina for 3 years if he was that good? Why did Brentford want him last year and not Barcelona? The usual question. I think he is not really a big game player. In the Conference League final against Olympiacos, he was off his game. He didn't impact the game at all. He looked lost in that final. And against West Ham, if my memory serves me correctly, he was nowhere near as good as he should have been, because he is Fiorentina's jewel in the jewel in Fiorentina's crown. So you expect him to step up to the plate in a European final, but he was very anonymous. So that's probably the stick to beat him with. He's not yes, he scored some goals against Juventus, against Milan in the league, but again, not the same pressure, a league game, often a goal that really didn't lead to a victory. Maybe it was a 3-1 or the 4-1 or the 2-0, rarely the winning goal. So yeah, he has it all. And I think he would be great for Newcastle, because he has also the intensity. He works hard as well off the ball. He always gives a helping hand to the left, to the right back. So he doubles up on players. He's like, he makes his presence felt on the pitch even without the ball. But again, in big games, sometimes he's like a bit the Harry Kane in big games. Great, like you call it flat track bullies in England, something like that. Yeah, great against smaller teams, not so good when the level goes higher. But again, it would be amazing for Newcastle, because 26 years old, huge room for improvement. And with Gordon and Isak up front, these three would probably, send shockwaves through English football if they get the right chemistry between them.
Cool. Let's go back to Thiaw. I'll combine two questions together, because Craig Lee asked, does Thiaw play right back and defensive midfielder? He's seen him operating in under 21s there. What about Milan? And I want to combine that with Toon Talk's question about his character. So what do you think, Alessandro?
Character in terms of personality?
Just in general, like is he a playboy off the field? Does he keep his head in the game? Or
I don't want to say he's a leader, because he's not a leader, but he's a very silent player. He's not someone who is constantly in your ear, like Carragher or Baresi or Roy Keane. He's not that player who has to go at his teammate if that teammate made a mistake. He's like a silent player, but no bling bling, no glitzy lifestyle. I think he has a girlfriend. He has he leads a quiet lifestyle off the pitch. It's not like when Adel Tarab came to AC Milan, he was like, always, I don't know. I don't want to say anything, but, he didn't behave in an exemplary way. And that's also the reason why Milan decided against making his move permanent. No, but Thiaw is like down to earth. He keeps a low profile, really, like Sven Botman. Even in terms of interviews, he gives interviews, but only if he has to. It's not like someone who wants to have the limelight, the spotlight on him. No, I think, but again, that doesn't mean he's weak or that he shirks the pressure. No, I think if you go from the second Bundesliga to Serie A, we all agree on the fact that Serie A is not as good as it used to be, 100%. But you still have to make that grade from the second Bundesliga with Schalke to the Champions League with AC Milan. That means he has, he's like confident. He has mental strength. He has self-belief. He knows he can. And what I like about him is that he's always, even when you saw Pioli, the manager, he always listens. He's willing to learn. When Pioli recalled him, like Malick, you saw sometimes during the game, do that, and that. He is someone willing to listen. He's not someone who tells the manager, I know it all. No, he's a very humble person. And as again, most Newcastle players that I've come across have the same mentality. Really down to earth, measured, and they do their talking on the pitch. He's like that. But again, if last season is anything to go by, he has a lot of improvements to make. But I'm sure, as I said before, he has everything to make those extra steps in the future.
Okay, let's switch tact for a second, and we're also on the lookout for a striker, or maybe a backup striker, maybe a younger striker that could complement Isak. How about your boy? And we put in Toontalk's question here. How good is the young striker Francesco Camarda at Milan? I think he's 16, is he?
Yeah, he's 16. He had a great under 17 European Championship. Can't remember exactly what it was, but he scored like a wonder goal. Again, you've said it there. He's 16. How many wonder boys have we seen at 16? Bojan Krkic, Freddie Adu. You have lots of players that were
Football Manager. All from Football Manager, of course.
Yeah, you've got a lot of child stars and boy wonders who didn't live up to the hype, to their billings. Or you don't know. He has it all. He has all the hallmarks of a future world-class centre forward. But again, is it nice to grow up in that sort of spotlight? I don't know. Maybe Holland. I think Holland was great. He came from nowhere. He scored a hat-trick in the Champions League with Salzburg, but again, if you listen to some of his teammates in Norway, he was never really that talented as a youngster, Erling Haaland. And then he became probably arguably the best striker in the world. Kamada, 16 years old, and already everybody talking about him. Again, he has the physicality. He can hold off challengers. He's like very good in open space. He's a killer in front of goal. But again, you don't know. At 16 years old, he can either be the new Marco van Basten in 10 years' time, or he can be, he can be gone completely, or he can go completely off the radar. So you don't know. What I think the wisest thing for him now is to stay away from the Premier League, from all that scrutiny, and just stay at Milan or go on loan at a small Italian club, earn your stripes there, and then we will see. But Premier League now, again, you have a lot of players who were huge at 16, and then for one reason or another, Giovanni Dos Santos, the Mexican player, he was like the new this, and Ansu Fati. That's why I don't want to get ahead with Yamal. Yes, he had a brilliant Euro, but he's 16. And Ansu Fati, when he was 16, he was apparently even better than Yamal. So let's see how he goes. But for Italy, it would be manna from heaven if he's the new centre forward. If you look at him play now, he reminds me a bit of Christian Vieri, very powerful, can use his body well, gets on the end of crosses, has a brilliant striking technique. But again, he can also easily be the new Balotelli. I mean, economically talking, would be good for him, but sportingly, you never know. And there's been a lot of false dawns in Italian football in recent years. El Shaarawy was like the next big thing when he burst onto the scene with AC Milan, Balotelli, Romagnoli, the centre-back, and even Calafiori now. I don't know if he's going to be as good as everybody thinks in the Premier League. I don't know if he has the tenacity and the physicality to hold his own in English football. And again, if you look at Scamacca, West Ham, Ken at keen at Everton. You've had a lot of Italian players who struggled in England, and I think the only one from memory that's done well is Tonali in those 10 games or so that he played. Jorginho, yes, but he's more an international profile, Brazilian background. Italian players have struggled in England, and if I was Newcastle, I wouldn't invest any money on Camarda now, and even Milan and even Camarda. Just stay where you are and see what you can do.
You've got one massive fan in the chat, Alessandro, from Plex1, because he says that's why I like Alessandro talking pure clarity. He also says, seems like a genuine lad. I like his posts. But he has a question for you. He says, Gabia for centre back, who would be a better signing than Thiaw? And he says, what are your thoughts on him?
Gabia, he's probably the most criticized Milan player, and to be honest with you, I don't want to blame the boy or say like he's a bad player. He's not a bad player, but he's from the Milan youth. If he wasn't from the Milan academy, he wouldn't play in the first team. Let's be honest. He's in the first team because he's like Milan's fifth option. So against the likes of Hellas Verona, Udinese, Salernitana, blah, 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 of Como now, he will do the job. Yes. But no way. For Newcastle, for the Premier League, I don't think so. I mean, Italy have like a dearth of centre-backs since Chiellini and Bonucci retired, Italy were famous for having the best centre-backs, probably in history. I'm not saying that because I'm Italian, but Baresi, Cannavaro, Nesta, Maldini, Scirea, Cabrini, Gentili, even Materazzi, some incredible players. And then Barzagli, Chiellini, Bonucci. They don't have centre-backs like that in Italy anymore. And Gabia, he's not even called up for national team. I think that's pretty telling. If you struggle to produce great centre-backs and you have one who plays for AC Milan, very young, 24, and he doesn't get called up, there must be a reason. I don't think he's even good enough. He's good enough for a small Italian club. Or if he's partnered by another good centre-back, if he has Maignan behind him, Theo Hernandez, Calabria, and Tomori, he can do the job. But no, not for Newcastle. I mean, again, his speed of thought, as I said, Thiaw is really good when it comes to reading, when it comes to anticipating, because he's really quick here. He's not necessarily the quickest player there, but he's very quick here, Thiaw. Gabia, I'm not sold on.
You can keep him. Yeah, we're good. I think. Okay, good. But thanks, Alessandro. Yeah, we're good there. One for you, Chris. Kubio. Say no more. One for you, Pete, because I know you've been having a few battles on this one. Noni, everyone keeps on about him. But yeah. He's not coming.
Can I just make this absolutely clear? Madueke, he has some talent. Quick, can run at players. He's skillful. He can do all those things. The reason why I don't want him, to be fair, there was more people that agreed with me that didn't, but the ones that didn't agree were probably more vocal, including Toon Tactics, who had a monologue of conversation. Madueke is not what I see as a priority key signing in the right wing position. He just isn't. And the reason being purely is because of his output. His goals and assist contributions, his creativity isn't there for a player that I would want to come into Newcastle United. It's just that simple. I mean, thankfully some of those links have been shot down. So I'm thankful about that. The second thing, and the thing that I've not even touched on, is that Chelsea paid 30 million for him. And Chelsea in reports have said they want to make a profit. My question is, would you then pay 35 to 40 million for somebody whose output isn't of the level that we want and the profile that we want in that right wing position? My answer is no. My answer is no. I'm not paying 30 million for him, let alone 35, 40 for Noni Madueke. Yes, he has some good skills and tricks on the outside, but you watch him play, his final ball's poor, his ability in front of goal isn't great, okay? And it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. The reason being is because he's just sat there with Cole Palmer, who's so much better than him, and he's not going to get any minutes in the same position. I wouldn't want him as a priority signing, and that was all it was. I mean, if he comes into Newcastle United, we'll do what we always do: we support and back the player 100% if he gets signed. But for me, if we look at the profile of some of the players that we're looking at, and Bremo is an example who's a tier above Madueke. I would love him to come into Newcastle United. He's already proven that he can play at a high level. It just, for me, I want better. Maybe that's me being selfish, but I want better in that position. We almost need to complete our front three. We've got Gordon, who's doing the business and done it last season. Isak, one of the best strikers in Europe, right? We need to complete that front three. If we want to be fighting at the top end of the table, we need to complete that front three. We hammered Miggy last season for not being good in front of goal, not doing the things in the final ball. Why are we then going to get rid of Miggy and get someone in who's exactly the same and pay 35, 40 million for the privilege? It doesn't make sense to me. I want someone that's going to be better output, better creativity, better assists, better goals. I want someone that's going to be on that level, not someone that's exactly the same. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my honest thoughts of Noni Madueke. And I just wanted to say that just to make it absolutely clear. Like, that's just kind of how I feel.
I agree on that one.
Yeah,
Last question for you, Alessandro. We'll end on the questions on that. It comes from Alan Thompson, friend of the channel. Alan, he wants to talk about internationals, and he says, were you disappointed with Italy in the Euros?
I didn't expect Italy to do it again. I mean, only Spain have won back-to-back Euros, so obviously the expectations were really low. I mean, 3 years ago, Italy rode their luck against Austria, against Spain, even against England. If Southgate goes for it after going 1-0 up, I think Luke Shaw scored. That game is gone. I mean, England should have been out of sight already against Italy. So that already a lot went right 3 years ago. And like so often in life, if you ride your luck, the wheel turns, you know. And obviously, no one expected anything given the team. Yes, 3 years ago it was not great, but the playing patterns were great. Players had like a blind understanding, and everybody was in his prime. And there was still Bonucci, Chiellini, Verratti, 3 key players. Now, Italy don't have many good players at the moment, and 2 of them were not there. Tonali for the ban, Zaniolo because he was injured. So, then was I disappointed? No, you can only be, I think, the way I see it, you can only be disappointed if you expected something, because it's the hope that kills you. But there were not any hopes this year. I mean, the only great player Italy had at the Euros, outfield player was Calafiori, who, let's see how it goes for him in England. And Donnarumma, for me, one of the 3 best goalkeepers in the world, who would play at any team. So, and you don't win the Euros or the World Cup if you have 2 players firing on all cylinders. The midfield was very bad. Barella looked tired. Scamacca, as you know him from the Premier League, I don't know. I don't know what makes him so respected in people's eyes. He's great. He can score great goals, but he's not consistent. He always looks like out of sorts. He's like, and at the back, you know, Acerbi, the centre back, was also absent. The one who kept Holland quiet in the Champions League final between Inter and Man City 14 months ago. So 3 players were missing, and the ones that were there were either tired or, off their game. Again, did the right team win? Yes, Spain were the better team. But again, if you look at Spain, they only have one superstar, Rodri. But they played the way Italy played 3 years ago. You know, they have like that everything. They implemented like a winning culture, and the confidence, the executions, everything that Italy had 3 years ago. All these things, because let's not forget, Italy went from a huge elation, like winning the Euros, to a massive deflation, not qualifying for the World Cup. So basically, you go from 100 to 0 And that put a lot of doubts in the players' head. And then Mancini leaving for Saudi Arabia was another slap in the face. It just added insult to injury. I didn't expect Italy. I expected Italy to do better against Switzerland for sure, because going out against Switzerland, if you are Italy, no matter how good Switzerland are, it can't happen. But even England, they really, sailed close to the wind against Switzerland. They had a lot of luck. But still, shouldn't have happened. You can go out against England, you can go out against Germany, France, Holland, but no, against Switzerland, no. But again, let's see now how it goes with Tonali's return, Zaniolo, who is at Atalanta, Gasperini. He's going to get the best out of him again. He's going to get him fit and firing. Then hopefully Camarda, if he develops into the player we all hope in Italy. But again, a fresh start is needed, because sometimes in life, things that got you to the top once rarely get you to the top another time. And it happens in all walks of life. You can be successful, I don't know, with this particular thing for all your life, but then as soon as you fail in that thing, you don't know how to respond to it, because you were always used to winning. And then it happens, for instance, with women. You're like, when you're on the roll, when everything goes right. But then if you get a rejection, it's so hard to cope with that. You're not used to being rejected. And Italy missing out on the World Cup was, okay, it happened before, but after winning the Euros, it's like you've crashed down on earth. It's like being in a state of depression and despair. It can't happen. If you win the Euros, you cannot miss out on the World Cup. And Bonucci and Chiellini leading were probably huge absences as well.
Yeah. Chris, I think you had a question you wanted to go to. I wonder if it's the same question I had, but go for it.
Mate, I think Alessandro must have said something, because Ali's put it in the chat. You thought the same thing, and it just triggered me, because we were talking about Italy, and I was thinking we've got to ask Alessandro this. So Alessandro, you may have seen it in the media. I don't know whether it's kind of broken in Italian media, but we've been quite heavily linked with Federico Chiesa. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on where you think he will end up, because it seems that Juventus are more than willing to kind of let him go for a reasonable fee, around 25-30 million euros. So I just wanted to know, well, firstly, what you think of him and how you thought he did at the Euros. And secondly, do you think there's a possibility he'll end up at Newcastle? But if not, where else do you think he may end up?
What I think about Federico Chiesa, I think he's the best Italian player. Just that he hasn't been the same player since suffering that horrific left knee injury, I think in January 2002. He has never been the same. It's like Ronaldo, the real Ronaldo before and now. Okay, not comparing the two, but it's like there is one Ronaldo before that injury in 1998, I think, against Lazio. In 2000, against Lazio. And there was another Ronaldo after his return. And the Chiesa is the same. He was devastating before his injury. And you remember how he turned the game on its head against England in the Wembley final. When he came on, England didn't know how to deal with him. The way he broke the line, his progressive style of play, the way he kind of beat his man. But he's never been the same player again. And there's a reason why he's gone off the boil in terms of goal scoring, stats. And in Juventus are willing to let him go. Thiago Motta doesn't want him. He even unequivocally said a few days ago, for now, Chiesa is here. Let's see further down the line. Is he going to go to Newcastle? Do you even need him with Anthony Gordon? I don't think so. I don't think you need him. I wouldn't kind of spend 40-45 million on a player anyway, with only 1 year left on his contract. If you ask me, I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to leave Juventus now. Juve want to sell him now because they still get something for him. If they wait a year, he's going to go. He's going to leave as a free agent, and I think that's what Chiesa wants to do. He doesn't want to leave Juventus as a loser, because the last season he's been pretty poor. Yes, he scored some goals. He's had some nice moments, but again, consistency. He's not been the same. Even his body language is not. Maybe scared of getting hurt again, of suffering a huge injury. Maybe it's holding him back, or maybe he just needs a out. But if you ask me, I'm not saying he's gonna stay at Juve, but that's what he and his agent want. They want to run down the contract at Juventus, and and then join Inter Milan next season on a free deal, because Inter are the kings of free agents. Çalhanoğlu, Zielinski, Thuram, Taremi. Most of their players were signed for zero. So I think he's gonna join Inter Milan, unless Juventus are telling him either you leave now or you're not gonna play for a year. Then he might accept Roma's offer. Roma also after him. Even now, I think it's gonna be hard because they signed Sule, who was linked with Leicester. Tottenham are also in for him. I can't see it happening with Newcastle at all. I really can't see it happening. And I think Newcastle's elephant in the room is the right wing position, not the left wing position. And I don't think you need Chiesa, to be honest. Unless Gordon joins Liverpool, then...
no, forget that.
Yeah. No, the only reason I asked about the right wing was because I noticed I knew he could play on the right wing, but I noticed for Italy he was playing on the right wing.
Yes.
And I just wondered, but do you think he's predominantly left wing and that's where he should be played if signed?
He's a right-footed player, so the problem at Juventus, he was also deployed as a not as a false nine, but as a second striker, as a number 11, not as a target man, just off the main striker. And that's, if you want to get the best out of him, you have to play in a 4-3-3 or in a 4-2-3-1. And at Juve, he was often deployed in a 3-5-2 formation up front with Vlahovic. So depends now how Thiago Motta wants to play, but I think the Turk Yildiz is going to be his main man on the left. Can Chiesa play on the right? Yes, of course. I don't know if you remember when he played against you guys in the final at Wembley against England. He started one of his actions on the right, and then he cut into the middle, but he was from the right. But I think if you really want to get the best out of him, if you really want to see the real Federico Chiesa, it's on the left. So because he's right-footed, so on the right, as a right-footed player, I think he's better as an inverted winger. But again, he can adapt. He can also play as a number 9. He will score that odd goal, but Chiesa, the best Chiesa is on the left. It's as if you play Messi on the left and Ronaldo on the right. You still get a good result out of them, but you just let him play where he wants, and that's on the left. Again, I think he's gonna run his contract down and join Inter next year on the free deal, because Marotta, Inter's CEO, has already had some. Has already held some talks with his representatives, and Chiesa is more than happy to, as I said, to run his contract down and then to get a huge salary if he joins Inter on the free next year. But if Tottenham now offer 50 million to Juventus and an 8 million year salary to the player, then I'm sure he's gonna be off to London. But I don't think Newcastle are gonna be in for him. I don't think so. That's pure speculation. I don't think so.
No, thanks, Alessandro. You've been very honest in all your analysis today. I think we'll start bringing the show to a close. Thanks everyone for getting up on Sunday morning to watch us as well. I'm going to be watching the All-Ireland final later on, so I'm looking forward to that one. And best of luck to Galway in that. So I'm playing Armagh, as I said, at 3:30. No one else really cares, just me. Even though the hat looks red here, so my little boy's hat. But over to you, Pete, to wrap it up.
No, Alessandro, massive thanks for you to join us. It's been a pleasure. It'd be great to have you back on. Hopefully, when something maybe breaks with the Malick Thiaw situation, hopefully for Newcastle fans very soon. But we'll wait and see on that one.
You have my number, my contact details. Whenever you need something, it was a pleasure to talk to you, to people who know a lot about football, who bleed football like me. So it was a pleasure, and hopefully some Newcastle fans will now. Of course, they have been kind already in recent times. They have not been as before. Maybe I looked for trouble with one or the other time, and again, I apologize if I upset anyone. That was not meant to be like he joins Newcastle because he has to. No, again, at the time, I just wanted to make my point. He has his heart set on Milan. He goes to Newcastle because Milan didn't pay what Lille wanted. But again, I have a game in Newcastle in September against Tottenham. I will be accredited for that one, and I'm looking forward to it. Memorabilia shop, down the road.
Yeah.
The whole package that Newcastle has to offer is always nice. It's always a nice
page.
Alessandro, have you specifically chosen that game because that's Sandro Tonali's return game, or?
Yeah, I didn't choose it. I was told that I have to go there because they know that I am always because I do Sky Italia, Gianluca Di Marzio, and the Sun, English newspaper. So they know that. I don't know if it's true, but if I go there, I may have bigger chances of getting Tonali on record. I don't know. I'm sure he's not. I don't know if he's going to talk straight away after the first game, but let's see how it goes.
I'm sure he'll talk to you, Alessandro. I'm sure he'll talk to you.
It's too soon, maybe. Early days, first game back, already an interview. Let's see.
Fingers crossed. But look, it's been a pleasure. We'll tweet out again with regards to the show. So everyone go and give Alessandro a follow if you haven't already on X. Any other socials that you're on that we can plug?
Facebook, I don't really use it anymore. Just Instagram and Twitter, to be honest. The same username, I think. Yeah, the same username.
Okay, so go and follow Alessandro. Alessandro, thank you. We're only going to do sort of 40 minutes. You've done an hour and a half, so we're going to let you enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your holiday, well-earned holiday, and hopefully we'll catch you soon.
Yes, whenever you need something, just drop me a message, and I will make time for you guys. It was an absolute honor. See you.
Nice one, Alessandro.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Take care, everyone, as well. I think we're saying good morning to everyone, and chat to you soon. How'd you like that?
How you like